positive discipline. Some of you came, Lucy and Gracie got to come to the positive discipline workshop. Did any of you come to that? So this is a fabulous goal chart. We had a whole morning seminar on this, and I've got something on the back of that too. So that just shows you if the child is misbehaving in a certain way, the theory behind the mistaken goals is that their behavior is for a specific reason. So if you're feeling angry or annoyed, what does that mean? Sorry, I don't have my own sheet. It means that their goal is undue attention. So they're wanting to get that special attention from the teacher. But if you're feeling defeated, their goal is
To be the boss.
misguided power. They're looking for control. And then it gives you some techniques for how to re-engage that child in a meaningful way based on their goal. So for example, if they want control, giving them choices is a great way to give them that feeling of control. If they're wanting attention, making sure before there's a problem you go out of your way to say, how was your dance class yesterday? Oh, you lost a tooth, tell me how that happened. Making that little connection with the child early on before any misbehavior starts. So this is a nice chart. I have it posted on the cabinet over there, but it's good to have a reference of your own. All right. Redirection, I've covered that in a lot of different ways. Dealing with misuse of work. I was talking about that a minute ago. Sometimes if you watch a child, you'll find that what looks like misuse of work is actually pretty purposeful. Linda Mielznis always used to say, look for the intelligence at work. I love to think that in my head. When you see somebody maybe not using a work the way it's intended, but they're doing something that is also really valid and meaningful, that's great. But if it is something like they were taking two big cylinders and banging them together as hard as they can, even if it's they're pretending like they're symbols, and maybe you could make a case for that being, creative, it's generally damaging the work because it's wood and it's going to make dents in it, and it's probably loud and disrupting the kids around them. So if somebody is doing a big dance number, again, you could be like, oh, well, that's a good use of their time because they're being creative and dancing. But is it conducive to a nice work environment for all the people around them? Probably not. So we're going to look at that as disruptive behavior. So if you just think of those as ways to, I guess misuse of work is the purpose of that. So just looking at whether the way they're using the work, is it dangerous, is it disruptive, is it going to damage the material that they're using? Destructive, I should say. Don't phrase things as questions. That's pretty much what I was saying before about don't say, would you like to do this? Power struggles, that's what that mistaken goal sheet is really helpful for. If you get into a power struggle with a child, generally, what Baiju said, the lady who did the positive discipline workshop, is the teacher needs to be the adult in the situation. I keep telling myself that. These are 3-year-old children. We are the ones who are going to have to back away and figure out an adult way to handle it. Often in a room with 3 teachers, turning it over to another teacher is probably a really good way. You can tell that teacher, no matter what, the outcome cannot be that this child gets to go have snack right now. But sometimes just having a different adult intervene is all the child needs to forget about it. And then, 10 minutes later, when everyone's happy, is a great time to bring the child to the peace area, which we're going to look at later, and have a talk with them. I really didn't like it when you kicked me in the shin, or whatever the child did to you, and then get it out when they're not functioning in that tantrumy 3-year-old state anymore. We'll talk more about that later. All right, and then the last one on my philosophy piece, which I'm 25 minutes behind on, is parent communication. This is really, again, the domain of the lead teacher. Depending on the situation, especially for teachers working in the all-day classrooms, you might have a little bit more of that responsibility because the lead teachers are sometimes gone at the end of the day, and they might leave you responsible for telling a parent something important. The main thing I would say is if you are asked to share important information with a parent, something like that your child bit somebody today, there's one that comes up. And the parent is seeking a lot more information and asking you to read into the reasons, or was the other child bullying my child, things like that. Really to just say, let me have April get back to you on that. Let me have Eve get back to you on that. Because the more you're starting to give parent information, some of it might be confidential, some of it, the lead teacher should really know that takes place. Sometimes you just can't get out of having a conversation like that, and if so, just make sure it's communicated back to the lead teacher what exactly transpired. But a parent might say to you, how is Daniel doing in school? And you might know he's not doing very well. Please don't say, oh, he's really doing terribly. Just say, oh, why don't you send Eve an email about that?
Mm-hmm.
Or you could say, if you have one positive thing to say, I noticed he had a really good time working with Fred today, but why don't you send Eve a follow-up email? That's an easy thing to say. Let me talk to Eve and get back to you. Let me talk to April or Kathleen or Anna and get back to you. You just don't want to end up in a situation where, maybe you told the parent some information that the lead teacher wasn't ready to share or wanted to share in a different way, because then it can turn into, oh, yeah, we think your child might be autistic. I was like, oh my gosh, not time to say that. So, and please share nice things that you saw with parents, but try not to say something negative unless the lead teacher asked you to. It's fine to be like, oh yeah, your child had a bathroom accident today. I mean, those kind of things are fine. But anything that's more on the negative side, we don't want to really talk about at the door anyway, because other parents and other people are around. And if you do have a conversation like that, just to make sure it's documented or at least shared with the lead teacher.
Is it okay, I know the school I just came from, the assistants were not allowed to talk to parents at all. We could say hi, good morning, but when it came to the kids, we had to say, you may leave Miss Eve a note, or you may leave Miss Eve an email. We weren't allowed to say anything to the parents.
Well, I guess that's kind of when no, you will be talking to the parents every day, and the parents will expect that. I mean, whoever's at the door, usually there's a teacher kind of watching the door, and that person will talk to the parents. But what I'm saying is, if you know, oh, that child did a really nice job building the pink tower today, that is totally fine to share. If you know they had a really fun time working with a special friend today, please share that. If you know that the child was injured, it's really important to tell a parent, your child has a scratch on his cheek because he fell on the playground and a wood chip scratched him. I mean, parents want to know that the teacher knows their child got hurt. No, you don't need to go overboard with that.
Okay.
But I mean, if a child ran into somebody on the playground and they cried for a minute, but it wasn't really because they were hurt, that kind of thing doesn't need to be shared. But if there's a visible mark, definitely tell the parent about it before the parent. I mean, if you can, before the parent asks about it, because it just seems like you're really on the ball. If we know, oh, I want to tell you, there's a goose egg on his forehead because he clunked heads with somebody on the soccer field. That kind of thing means a lot to them, that you are thinking about their child and you care enough to tell them what happened. If you don't, they'll ask. But those are important information. But as far as overall classroom progress, please don't make any evaluative statements to the parents about that unless the lead teacher says, because sometimes I'm going to be at the doctor, it's really important that the parent knows that this child had, something happened today. And I would ask you, or even write a note and say, please make sure you give this to the parent. And then same thing with parent-teacher conferences, but you'll hear more about that. But we always want supportive help, but if there's something you really disagree about with the teacher, please don't go talk to the parent, I really don't think Eve's handling this the right way. That kind of thing just makes us appear like we're not a team, and I haven't had that happen before, but it would be really unfortunate. All right, we are gonna move into sensorial now. Does anyone need to stretch legs or something? I'm gonna pause this just so I have a new